into the curriculum committee meeting, and we will begin with public comment. The same procedure applies as before with the technology meeting. Mrs. Furlong, you're written down as wanting to make public comment for the curriculum meeting. Would you like to comment now?
Can you give me 1 second here to get
No.
started?
Take your time.
Batteries only have a certain life. And they get expensive too, I might add. All right. Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. Normally at the September meeting, PSSA scores are reviewed. And also the other thing, what was the other thing I had on there? PSSA scores and
A summer school review.
there's usually a summer school review, how many people were invited to attend, how many people actually did, what was the tuition collected, what was the cost incurred. Same thing for the summer camps, such as the band camps, the violin camps, the drama camps. All that's supposed to be at either a profit, if you want to use that dirty word here in education, or break even. As taxpayer, I'm not mandated to pay for that. So I would like to know when those presentations will be made, including the financial part.
So I don't know how many times I can play the new guy card, but I'll play it there. I didn't know what was normal in terms of PSSA as well as summer school and camp. So we'll make sure that we have that information ready for the October meeting.
Okay. So for some other people, it's not their first rodeo, but you can play the card. I don't mind when you play it. So, but it is information that I would like to have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Then we'll go to our first item, which is the AP Environmental Science textbook adoption. Dr. Dormer?
Yes, thank you, and good evening. It's my turn to play the newbie card. I'm here tonight to propose the adoption of an updated or current textbook for our AP Environmental Science course. Primarily, the rationale stems from the College Board's mandate that in order to maintain the advanced placement designation, no textbook may be older than 10 years. And the current text that we use is dated 2009. So if we go beyond this year, we will lose our AP designation for this course. One thing I can say in full support of this class is that from 15-16, 16-17, and 17-18, and I only went back 3 years, so you have to forgive me for that, we were running 2 sections of this class. We are now running currently 4 sections of the course, and the demand for it remains high. The test scores are phenomenal, and we have a very good teacher in place who's highly enthusiastic about continuing that pattern, and keeping them popular, and also challenging the students at a high level. It is one of our applied sciences that incorporates a lot of our different disciplines and content areas and gets to examine them in some pretty neat ways. So in order to comply, we feel like we wanted to adopt a new text. If you can scroll through that. So I just provide an overview of our science department goals, the units of study, methods of evaluation, and we did a little bit of, evaluating one text versus another. We first looked at our current text and the updated edition, and then I decided to compare that to a couple others and have arrived at the preferred choice of exploring environmental science for AP. As put out by Cengage and sponsored by National Geographic. It just seems to present the material in the most kind of unbiased manner, with a variety of resources such as current case studies in the field, a lot of really, really cool diagrams, prompts for critical thinking that were not included in the other text, sample AP problems, and just ways for students to engage in the materials in a very deep and meaningful manner. So that's why this particular one is the preferred choice. And our teacher can, if you choose to investigate, you know, her test scores, you know, just demonstrate that, you know, our students are ranking high above the national averages and pretty much all the sections, multiple choice, free response, and in the individual topic areas in this class. Any questions or concerns about the adoption? Oops. About the adoption of the new text for this class?
I just want to state for the record that there are samples of the chapters of the textbook that are available, that are there from that standpoint, so I want to thank you for that. I also just want to congratulate the teachers who passed on the word in terms of the scores. They just really are impressive as you compare it both to the state but also nationally and internationally on that AP Environmental. To have 89% of the students getting a 3 or higher and 63 getting a 4 or higher is really, really strong, so I appreciate that. Can you talk to us a little bit about the online resources that are available? I see that there is not an e-book associated with this, and I don't know whether that's less common with an AP example or not, but what type of online resources will the teacher have available to use with the students?
Sure, it is actually relatively common for the AP level tests not to have an ebook, you know, just to have a on-paper copy. But a lot of the resources that I had just mentioned, the interactive diagrams and the case studies are actually available online. And some of those even elicit, you know, public comment. So students can engage with students from other areas from around the country to discuss, you know, their resolutions to the particular cases of interest, which is pretty neat because then it goes beyond Pembridge walls and truly makes it, you know, a global investigation of, you know, sometimes controversial topics, climate change and, you know, use of resources and conservation and things like that.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for including the test scores because although we see these in a general sense, Dr. Schein presents them every year, it's nice to see them specific to this course since we are looking at the interest in the change in your curriculum, so to speak, or at least the textbook that's used for that curriculum. And I know the AP courses there define only certain textbooks are available to use, so that makes the process, I believe, a bit more challenging at times. So thank you for including those. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate the praise. The teacher is very proud of what she does, but not necessarily for the scores that are produced, but for, you know, the depth of learning that the students demonstrate and the enthusiasm that they end up generating for the content. So, but it's nice to see that turn into some positive results as well.
I would just like to thank Dr. Dormer. She has big shoes to fill, as everyone knows that Mrs. Cotner-Davis retired last year. So I want to thank you for taking that initiative. This was something that you didn't start and you took over, and I certainly appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
I'm going to point out that in the report, that I think this is the teacher speaking, that she found herself supplementing information from other resources. And so this text filled in those gaps for her. And I know it's already been said, but thank you. The scores are exciting for me. I think that our students, my own children, have benefited from the AP courses they've taken at Pennridge and the scores that they've received, earned on their AP exams. That's helping them as they go through college. So I appreciate that. And there's something else I was going to say, and I can't remember, but yeah, no, so thank you. Oh, the other thing is that this is a growing, I hear more and more students who want to go into this as a major in college. So to have this for them here, I think is nice. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Is everybody,
It is a blossoming field for sure. And as a former AP Science teacher myself, I can honestly say that student feedback is one of the greatest, praises that we can receive. And we did a survey to all of our AP students at the end of last year. And not only did the teacher get positive comments on how the course was delivered and so forth, but one of the major themes that seemed to be permeating through many of our AP courses was that students felt prepared and excited about taking on their studies at the college level. And many of them who had spoken to peers who had gone on and already had their introductory level courses said that they were the easiest classes on their college schedule, which made them very happy. And they were tutoring other folks in those areas. So to get feedback like that is phenomenal.
My own kids, they make the younger siblings jealous because Charlotte's in 11th grade now. Last year she took some APs and she's churning through this. She was doing her summer work this summer, and my older daughter's just flitting around and having a grand old time, nothing to do in the summer, but she's trying to tell Charlotte that it pays off. Like, it is kind of a relief. They get to college and, the workload almost seems less than what they might have encountered here, so thank you. And so everybody's comfortable with putting this on for the 24th for the school board meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. I will share the good news.
Okay, and then the next thing is the Future Ready Index update with Dr. Shah.
Good evening, everyone. Just making sure this is going to, the clicker is going to work. No, okay. Okay, all right, thank you. As you may or may not recall, last year in November when I presented the PSSA scores, kind of the state of Penn Ridge with our AP scores, and for at least the last 4 years, it's either been October or November when those scores are presented due to the state as we've gone through every year. Last year when I presented the scores, I said we would not be measuring SPP the way that we would not be measuring it as we had in the past, that the state was moving on to report cards, so to speak, for school districts in the state of Pennsylvania through a more holistic view. That is called Future Ready PA Index. So what I plan to do tonight is really give you an overview. When I actually present this information, or Dr. Bolton and I present this information, I will go in depth. I really want to be here tonight to let you know that we will not be having the SPP score as we had in the past, and I'll go through some of this with you. Okay, let's see if it works, and it does. Okay, wonderful. So for No Child Left Behind, in the past, the accountability system was School Performance Profile, or SPP. There was federal accountability. There were improvement designations by priority and focus. There was a public-facing report card, and we used that SPP score for educator effectiveness and evaluations. Now, with ESSA, we moved away from No Child Left Behind, Every Student Succeeds Act, the accountability and reporting, we still have federal accountability. But we're moving from priority and focus improvements to comprehensive and targeted improvements, and that's what we will be looking at. Hopefully Penn Ridge will not be looking at comprehensive. I'll talk a little bit about what each of those mean and how the state plans on breaking them down. What the public will be able to see is the actual Future Ready Index. It's going to be online for the public to look at. Everything that I'm talking about, and then even more at a later date, the public will be able to see. So it will be online. While the SPP scores will not be public and will not be reported, they will be reported to schools to use for the teacher evaluation. So that is what will remain with SPP, but as you know in the past when we talked about SPP for our district, for other districts, that will not be reported publicly. Okay. So, PDE's ESSA plan, the statewide long-term goal, and I know this is worded a little funny, it's really reduced by half the statewide percentage of students not meeting proficiency targets. So when we talk about our achievement scores and we're looking for our students to be proficient and or advanced on these assessments, the state, they want to reduce that gap, that change, by half. They're also going to be looking at our achievement scores, so we will be reporting on our achievement scores, our PSSAs and our Keystones. That stays the same. They will also be looking at graduation rates. They're going to look at 4-year and 5-year. There'll be a combined percentage, and school districts not meeting at least 67%. They will be a targeted school. Our cohort is at 96.18 from last year, and our 5-year was at 93.5, so we really are not in any danger of worrying about that particular score. What I really like about this is the English language proficiency, our students who are English as a second language. And basically, the students who took the PSSA, and they were our ELL students, it was the PSSA scores were reported for the students who took those exams. Now we're able to look at their progress by their assessments, which is a WIDA assessment access scores. So we'll be able to report how they're making progress over time on their learning goals as English language learners. So I think that was a very, very, that's an improvement over the former system. And then they'll also be measuring college and career readiness, and I'll get into more specifics about that. Okay, so these are the accountability measures. Some information on the Future Ready Index website will be accountability by federal means and just for information. These are the accountability measures. So advanced and proficient on the state assessments, which we have always had. Growth on the state assessments is PVAS, and I've talked about that for the last 4 years. Our graduation rate, which we just talked about. Chronic absenteeism is new. What they're going to do is they're calculating chronic absenteeism based on the number of students who have missed more than 10% of school across an academic year. So the actual formula is number of students enrolled for 60 or more days. So if you're not enrolled for at least 60, you're not counted in that count. And present for 90% or more over the number of students enrolled for 60 days across the board. So they're really taking a look and making sure that students across the state of Pennsylvania are coming to school. Because one of the problems when they see the test scores across the state is absenteeism. We don't really fit into that category. At this time, we have a 94.17 attendance rate at the high school. We already talked about the English language proficiency, and then college and career readiness, and I think Mrs. Miller mentioned something about Naviance moving down to the lower levels. The state wants every district to record evidence that we are working with our students, even from elementary school, on college and career readiness. So we have to report at least 2 pieces of evidence per 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, those bands. And then by the time the students reach 11th grade, they should have 20 pieces of evidence that they have been working on, thinking about their preferences, where they want to go, what their college or career options are, and perhaps at least thinking about what they want to do. Some students may not know, but they will have a lot of opportunity to plan for that. So the first group of students at Penn Ridge who will have gone through that entire system is the class of 2026. So by that year, that group will have gone through all of this. But everyone needs to do it now because we've already had to report last school year, so it's going to be reported on this on the Future Ready Index pieces of evidence that our students have been working on college and career. So that is what's going to be populated in Naviance for us to be able to report them to the state. This is just, I thought you wanted to take a look at, this is just a screenshot of the first page of what it's going to be looking at. So it's kind of fuzzy, but I wanted to let you see that it looks different than what it looked like before. Just a screenshot. So what you see on there, there's 3 sections. So basically, they're the state achievement measures of which we have known, and they're not going away. Then we have the on-track measures. So the on-track measures are grade 3 reading, grade 7 math, ELL, and our chronic absenteeism. Districts may use an alternate assessment that meet the criteria for grade 3 reading and grade math in place of the PSSA. We, as most districts, did not move in that direction yet. So our grade 3 and grade 3 reading and grade 7 math, those scores will be reported as PSSA scores this year. Not that we won't change that down the line, but I don't know that any of the districts in the county felt ready to move it that quickly on something like that. And then there's 3 sections. The other section, again, is the college and career readiness, the graduation rate. We're looking at industry-based learning and the credentials that our students are receiving. They're going to be looking at the AP, and they do that now, the number of courses we offer and the number of students who take those courses. The state will be reporting post-secondary transitions. They will populate that data. They're also looking at, which I'm also very interested in and think it's a good idea, career pathways for students. So this is giving, even though it's different, there are opportunities here for us to be taking a look at different ways, maybe even better ways, to help our students along a career pathway in the future. So, it is similar to the SPP, so it is a calculation of the number of students who are proficient and or advanced on our state assessments. Now, formerly, the percentage of students advanced was an extra credit number, and that is not there anymore. They will report that number, but it will not be counting as an extra credit number. And this is another difference. They're going to be, as we did in No Child Left Behind, disaggregate the subgroups. And you know, year after year, I've been talking about the historically underperforming group that was kind of lumped into one group. They'll be disaggregated. So you're going to see each one. You'll see a target date, and I don't know that I said that to begin with. The target year for the state is 2030. So they're going to start from the year 2015. The target year is 2030. So districts will have to make incremental growth towards the 2030 goals of percentages, which they will outline. So that's what I want to show you when I come back. I didn't think it made sense to show you that now without knowing what our scores were. So to make it more relevant and comprehensible, you'll see what the long-term goals are, you'll see where we are, and you'll see where our target goals are by group. And the on-track measures, I've talked about those already, and we can use local measures that meet a criteria that's pretty intensive and comprehensive. So we may do that. And we will continue with our WIDA scores for our English language learners. And then we'll be tracking career beginning in grade 3. We will, again, be uploading that into our PIMS. We'll look for industry credentials, not just through Upper Bucks Technical School. We'll look for Microsoft credentialing, CPR credentialing, other ways that we can credential our students. And again, post-secondary will be handled by the state, and they will populate that on the Future Ready Index. Now, everybody who has seen the SPP scores know that it has a lot of different colors. So they're keeping with their color scheme. So again, there'll be a school score for each measure. The data is disaggregated for each measure. And again, the comparison will be from the statewide target. And then the growth will be based on a baseline of 2015-16 to target to 2030 for each measure. And then each year, the interim target is how close are you moving in the right direction to meet that final goal? So here's the color coding. Blue says you're meeting it or exceeding it. Green says you're meeting the progress target. And red says you're not meeting that goal or progress target. And there's no single building score like the SPP. There'll also be arrows. So even if you're not meeting the target, if the data suggests that you are on your way to, so there'll be an arrow pointing up. If the data says that you're not, it's going to have an arrow pointing down. So when we actually have this, and I can show it to you, it'll make more sense, but I think we're pretty used to the color coding system by the state. They didn't make it that much different. So the designations, or those classifications, the comprehensive support and improvement is for the bottom 5% of Title I schools, which we will not fit that criteria. Any high school, not just Title I, with less than 67% graduation rate will be targeted. Any school that meets the comprehensive support and improvement parameters at the subgroup level. So when I talked about historically underperforming students, all the subgroups, if you have a total in your building of 20 or more, then you would get a score for that. If it's under 20, you won't. So for example, our ESL population at Guth is over 20. In the middle schools, it's under 20. And at the high school, we're approaching 20. So 20 is the number for the subgroups where you get a score. So I attended the webinars. Dr. Bolton and I both have been attending meetings about Future Ready Index. It is expected to roll out to the public in December. So while typically I come here and share our progress, either October or November, because we can have a discussion on, I don't know how we would be able to do that until this rolls out, so that I could give you an accurate picture of the entire Future Ready Index. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Again, this is really a broad overview. This isn't everything. I just wanted the main points to be there will not be the typical SPP, and that this is a more comprehensive, broader look at the progress of school districts. And the exciting thing is college and career readiness is really a big part of it, which I think will push all districts to move in that direction to improve. Thank you.
Having seen numbers of these systems and all the iterations that come with them, and the fact that you have a 2030 target makes me skeptical about this, just as with the previous system.